Call to order. Time is 6:02. Council combined meeting of February 15, 2024. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, sorry. What? That's wrong button. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brescher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle. Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Patel.
Here.
Councilmember Patil.
Here.
Councilmember Pointer.
Present.
Councilmember Schumel.
Here.
All right, Madam Clerk, please read the adequate notice.
Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Act of 1975 has been provided by now. No notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, Desi Talk, and News India Times on December 12th, 2023, and posted main lobby municipal complex on that same date.
Okay, and now opening up to the oral petition and remarks, going from the list, I have Joel Bassoff.
Joel Bassoff, 17 Beach Lane. So again, I have questions about ordinances that should have been adopted by now, but again, they're not on the agenda. I might have to leave the meeting before you answer, but I'll watch the video. So even if I'm not here, I'll find out if you've answered my questions. First, a 21st century ordinance for digital billboards. We've had meetings, we've discussed drafts. There's still no ordinance on the agenda. So what's the obvious conclusion? It's that the administration and the council just don't care if some residents get digital billboards flashing in their windows. So my question is, why don't you care? Is it because you think it won't happen to your house? Or is there some other reason that you don't care about the public? Second, a 21st century ordinance distinguishing warehouses from distribution centers and e-commerce and fulfillment centers. The ordinance was drafted, it just needed a minor correction, and it's now disappeared from the agenda. So what's the obvious conclusion? That the administration and the council just don't care if semi-trailers rumble up and down certain residential streets all day and all night. So my question is, why don't you care? Is it because you don't think it'll affect your street? Or is there some other reason that you just don't care? Third, Amboy Avenue. Nobody in Clara Barton wants 4-story buildings, except for one person who's sometimes on this dais. Residents of Clara Barton have asked you again and again to repeal the ordinance that allows 4-story buildings. It's a simple fix, but it's still not on the agenda. So the obvious conclusion is that the administration and the council just don't care about the residents of Clara Barton. So my question is, why don't you care about your neighbors? And then fourth, public advocate. We could have had a public advocate ordinance last year, but the administration and the council ran out the clock and let it die. You had a choice of ordinances that you could put on the agenda this year, including one drafted by a member of this council, one drafted by the township attorney, but it's not on the agenda and it looks like it's not going to be. So what's the obvious conclusion? That the council and the mayor prefer that the residents do not have legal representation when a developer files a development application that could be detrimental to their neighborhood. Yes, if neighbors have the knowledge and the resources to raise $5,000 or $10,000 to hire a land use lawyer, you can't stop them from doing that. But the council's preference and the mayor's preference is that the residents remain unrepresented. So my question is, why don't you look out for the interests of the residents rather than developers? And why are you unwilling to stand up to the mayor? So I'll be looking forward to your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Bas. Joe. Bruce Diamond.
Bruce Diamond, Calvert Avenue West. I watched and listened to the 2 previous meetings. I'm kind of confused how an angry group of people took over this council chambers and made this whole thing an embarrassment. If I would have acted that wacky, you would have thrown me out of the building. Christo acted that wacky wherever he is, he would have been thrown out of the building. But you had 40 Asians here, and they got to be wild. I don't even know if they're residents of Edison, didn't identify themselves. They just screamed and screamed and screamed. It's embarrassing. Like it or not, 60% of this town voted in favor of marijuana. That's the deal. You don't get to change your mind because you shout the loudest. It didn't work on January 6th with the Trumpers. Shouldn't work here. You guys need to be courageous. You heard the voice of the people. We want legalized marijuana in this town. You need to come up with a zoning ordinance that allows it more than you previously have and hidden it in Raritan Center. And the fact that so many of the people, or many of the people, were beating their chests that they were committee people, I have to believe Mr. AJ and perhaps Mr. Brescher and the other silent minority brought those people here to intimidate you. And it worked. And that sucks. Sucks for the town, sucks for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next on the list, Akhtar Nasser.
Akhtar Nasser, Pleasant Avenue. I'm here for several reasons, but mostly to say thanks to those council people who are working to resolve the issues that other Clara Barton residents and myself have raised over the course of years. I'm glad that this is a work session meeting. It will allow me to say what I need at the beginning and then leave long counciled combined meetings where the public sits patiently for hours wondering when we're going to speak. Although I'll be leaving shortly, please rest assured that the Clara Barton residents and myself will be glued to the screens, eagerly listening live at home to the conversation about Ordinance 1936-2016, also known as the 4 Stories Building Repeal in Clara Barton. Please note that while I'm giving thank yous to everyone, please don't see this as complacency by me. We are still expecting actions and answers to be done for the ongoing issues that I've presented before. So on to the thank yous. Thank you, Councilwoman Harris, for spending 1 hour last week attending a ride-along with me to experience Clara Barton firsthand. We discussed safety issues, traffic, and we talked at length about the 4-story buildings. It's very important to walk in the shoes of residents near Clara Barton so that, and I also expect or ask if anyone that wants to go ahead and have another firsthand account ride-along, I'm available to do so. Councilman, I'm hoping I'm saying your name, Shmuel. I have not had an opportunity to speak to you as of yet, but if you want to go on a ride-along one-on-one, we can arrange that. That would give us a chance to go ahead and get to know each other. My email, I'm sure that you have, as I sent to every single council person. You can ask anyone on the dais right now for my telephone number should you want to contact me that way. Thank you, Councilman Coyle, who's not here today, for speaking one-on-one with me for 1 hour on the phone and suggesting we have a conversation with the residents about a vision that works for both residents and developers. We want smart development, not overdevelopment. We can't have ugly H buildings for Clara Barton. Thank you, Councilman Pointer, for following up with the illegal listings of the 1-bedroom apartments, which are listed as 2. Thank you for working on the new library signs with Library Director Kleinman. Thank you, Councilman Ajay Patil, Councilman Point and Alderali, and School Board President Burrell for talking to administration about safety issues in Clara Barton with specifics of the sidewalk easements on Cabot Avenue. Thank you, Councilman Patel, for speaking to me about the various sidewalk issues that are on Cabot Avenue, Woodrow Wilson Drive, and also on a few other streets. And also thank you for meeting with me at the coffee shop to talk about the 4-story buildings. Thank you, Councilman Brescher, for your 1 hour conversations on Clara Barton and bringing up Ordinance 1936-2016 for discussion tonight. Weeks ago, the Edison lawyers stated that they will look into the ordinance. Keep pressing on. Councilman Brescher, it seems that we are waiting on a lawyer. What information do you need from him? Councilman Brescher, can you make sure to get a step-by-step answer? of what to do with the ordinance or a pathway to go ahead and repeal the 4-story ordinance and not accept the answer, I will look into it. Clara Barton wants a date. Clara Barton wants a commitment. Clara Barton has been waiting for 8 long years. I hope legal is not afraid to go steady with us. There is so much evidence that Clara Barton doesn't want 4-story buildings. It's documented by the hiring rule, and you'll hear from Clara Barton's residents at countless planning board and council meetings. We are getting louder and louder on this issue, and others from the other parts of town are also supporting us. Clara Barton doesn't want to end up being in the same category as Suez Water and Sewer, Cannabis, and the closing of the Clara Barton Library. These were miscalculations of the former and current administration. What Clara Barton wants should be an easy win compared to Silver Lake and Charlie Brown. It's a matter of, do you really want to get it done? I dare you to show me how the 4-story building in Clara Barton has helped Clara Barton develop any further. Today I got a call from Chelsea to arrange a meeting with Clara Barton residents. Councilman Coyle asked to meet with residents as well. And I hope that together, the mayor and any council person that wants to go and meet will help us figure out what to do. All of Edison is watching how the council governs, and we're all watching to see if you're here for the residents or developers. We live here, they don't. I'm going to end with this. What are 3 positive things that you have done that are not known to the public? And what will you do to help the Clara Barton residents repeal the 4-story buildings? Thank you.
Thank you, up there. Anyone else that wants to speak? Oh, you can come on up.
Jerry Ship Freeman.
You recognize?
I would like to thank the clerk for giving me some of the stuff that I requested at the last meeting. But there's a lot, there's about 8 of them that she can't provide answers for because it has to do with your department heads and for the people that's connected. And I think it was quite dismissive of you not answering the questions. And I notice when I do ask some questions up here, Councilman Coyle interrupts, and our BA happens to have an attitude or whatever. So I would hope that would change, because I know that the council president is supposed to be in charge and he's supposed to be able to control his meetings. So I wasn't happy with that at all. And I'm still wondering, like about the 75, when you say 75 streets for PSE&G to work on in Edison, PSE&G is not some overnight company. If they gave you the name of those streets, that meant they've been working on it for like 2 years. So I wanted to know that. And as I'm going through Clara Barton, because I always go through Clara Barton, that's how I go home, to go to Bottomtown, that's how close we are. And I see most of the side streets all dug up, or what's going on. So, and I'm hoping that something happens with the senior citizen building, the supposed building on Idlewild Road. I just wanted to know what was the holdup, and I hope I'm not getting the incorrect answers from some people. They tell me the holdup is that there aren't any permits, that they're holding up on permits. So I want the real answer, because I don't like, you know, just to hear a rumor or somebody telling me that. And another person told me to ask you, why would you 6 months in advance advertise for a party that would be in August of, you know, house music, when you didn't do that for the actual meeting of Comcast, the actual meeting that was on a Tuesday? A lot of people say they missed it because it wasn't over and over again, it wasn't told to them. And then thirdly, they said that why should we can't even run a water company completely, so why should we invest so highly against a whole bunch like Comcast, all these different things? Why would we be the ones to do our own private little internet company? They say that doesn't make sense. They think it's a waste of money. a lot of waste of money when we can't handle the stuff that's on our plate already. And we have the water and we have the sewer, so they want to know where we're getting all this extra money to start the broadband company. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle.
You're recognized.
I come to the meetings because I like to keep up with what's going on in the town and how the council responds to its citizens. But I'm very distressed about what's going on with the Clara Barton ordinance that they'd like repealed. It doesn't seem that the residents of that area of town really want to go ahead with the 4-story buildings. And I don't think they're doing it just so development. They have actual reasons why they don't want that section of town to be built up the way it is. There is an easy way to take care of it. And I'm actually surprised that the response isn't part of our master plan, that part of town remain the way it is, develop what we have, and then move forward in a proper way. But I'm coming, and I still hear people reaching out to you. We don't want this. I live on the other side of town, but I care about Edison. And what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen right on Inman Avenue outside my block? These are things we need to look into, and we need the council to respond, to care about the people in our town and their wishes. They're not saying not in my backyard. They're saying we want to keep this section of town to look and be the way it is. You want to make improvements? That's fine, but I don't believe a 4-story building in Clara Barton section of Edison needs to look like Hoboken or any other urban city. So please, talk about it and do what you think is right for the residents of this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Krista?
Thank you. Am I recognized?
You're recognized.
Thank you very much. I find it rather strange, Council President Patel, that at the last meeting, you told everyone that you were going to do exactly what they wanted, and yet they were still acting like animals. Why is that? I think it's because they were told to come here and behave that way. I think Baral Patel and his Board of Education people told them to come and behave that way. I think Baral Patel is running for election, and as he's going to run for election, he's going to play games like this and put the residents' lives at risk. Deputy Chief Dudash knows that at the Captain Todd incident, I exposed Baral Patel. The crowd didn't like that. So what did they do next? They couldn't say they didn't like the comments I made on Baral, so they started gaslighting me, saying that I need to put on a mask. And then the Captain Todd incident happened, and then my life was destroyed shortly after. What did we see at the last meeting? They were all screaming for me to take off my mask. One day they want me to put on a mask. The next day they want me to take off my mask. I don't have to do anything that anyone wants. I only have to do what the law allows me to do. And that's it. Yeah, I got a dispensary next to my house. Absolutely no crime. There's nobody wandering the neighborhood smoking pot. All this fake outrage. Can you explain to me, Council Patel, or everyone up there? We already lost millions. We should have had the pot shops a year ago, 2 years ago. Why are we losing millions more? Because you guys are wasting time and not allowing these stores to open up. Millions that you guys complain we don't have money for senior citizens. We would have more money for senior citizens. We would have money for so many services. And I don't like when people come up here from the fake Republicans and start saying, oh, we shouldn't accept free money because we waste the money anyways. These people are smoking crack, okay? How much time do I have left, Marlena? 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes. Most of these people that came here are not residents. They were told in a WhatsApp group to come here by Baral Patel. I want to know why all these people that claim to protect the children, they have family members that have convenience stores, gas stations. They're selling their gas station heroin. They're selling the vapes. They're selling the bath salts that turns kids into zombies. They start eating people's faces off. Just check the Florida news for that one. Yet you guys come out here with the fake outrage and tell us that we can't have the pot shops that are 100% safer. But how much time do I have left, Marlena? 3 minutes. Council President to Deputy Chief Dudash. I saw Deputy Chief Dudash. He's the media coordinator. I asked him if he had an update on the predator catcher case. He says no. He had a lot of slander to say to the media. Through the chair to Deputy Chief Dudash. Deputy Chief Dudash, would you like to admit that you guys were 100% wrong with the predator catcher case and that it was full of lies and that's why I beat the case? You accused me of luring sexual predators to town. That was not true. You accused me of having a predator catcher YouTube channel. That's also not true. You accused me of threatening to cut off somebody's penis. That's not true. You accused me of criminally restraining a child predator, Deputy Chief Dudash. Are you stupid? How can you criminally restrain a child predator that volunteers to have a consensual conversation inside a vehicle because it's too cold outside? And I'm just the cameraman.
Christo, please address the...
I am. I said through the chair to Deputy Chief, and I am allowed to speak to him.
But look at me. Yeah, face me.
I understand he's a coward with zero integrity, but he should come out and say the truth, that it was all full of lies. Are you aware that one of the predators is the son of a police officer and that all his charges were dropped? Are you aware about that? So Deputy Chief Dudash, you guys make me sick. You're a piece of shit. Your whole department's a bunch of pieces of shit. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you as I'm speaking to him.
The language,
Rosenfeld versus New Jersey says I'm allowed to curse. I'm on public property. Deputy Chief Dudash, I think you're a piece of shit. I think the Edison Police Department, the officers are pieces of shit. How much time do I have left, Marlena?
You're almost at a minute.
A minute?
You're about to be.
The Edison police are the biggest scumbags. They're pieces of shit. They're a bunch of assholes.
Crystal,
Yes.
I understand you have a lot of admonishment for this, but we got the
The
message.
Deputy Chief Dudash can go fuck himself. He's a fucking asshole. He's a fucking piece of shit. Rosenfeld versus New Jersey, I'm allowed to curse where the guy said motherfucker many, many times at a Board of Education meeting. I dare you to remove me. I dare you to remove me. Deputy Chief Dudash, you're a fat piece of shit. Fuck you. Fuck your whole department. The fact that these people support child sex predators, not until my time's over, Lozman versus Riviera, I cannot be disrupting a meeting if it's my time to speak, Marlena. You are such a piece of shit, Deputy Chief Dudash. Why don't you say the truth? Why don't you say the truth that I'm innocent because you guys lied? Would you like to say that? Would anyone up there from the council demand answers from that fucking piece of shit? Go fuck yourselves.
Anyone else that would like to speak?
You're all pussies. What a class act. I admire the patience and restraint all of you had. I'm Bruce Seitz, 88 Parkgate Drive.
You're recognized.
I'm glad to be here tonight. I had an accident a couple of weeks ago, concussion. I'm better today, but I'm going to use some notes. I'm going to try not to use up my 6 minutes, but basically I wanted to talk about follow-up and getting answers to questions and moving things along. We speak a lot of points here. We ask questions. We raise issues here, and I find that there's no follow-up. People don't get back to me. Everyone's busy. And I want to keep this very civil and low-key, but there has to be a little more respect on both sides because there's always two sides of a story. So that being said, I have been a cable committee chairman for over 5 years, okay? Through COVID, after COVID, everybody basically on the committee has been inactive. Richie Brescher has helped me a couple of times on a number of issues, but as I said at the October 15th meeting, that a lot of improvements been made. And I know that even in the last couple of weeks, they have done some very good things. One of the state senators with you, they had you there at your house, I believe, right? And they've really been improving. So I want to get back to the issue of this broadband, because as I said 3 weeks ago, I would call this Edison's folly. A couple of bloggers even picked it up, and I got some posts forwarded to me. So that being said, and I want to keep it brief tonight, there's some questions that I need to have answered, okay? Number one, where is the revised business plan? I've been emailing back and forth with Councilman Patel, Council President Patel, and I sent them an email on February 19th, and I said, I would like to meet with you. Let's get together and do what's best for Edison. I could work on both ends and getting everybody on the same page. And Council President Patel wrote me back, very positive. Hey, Bruce, I'd love to meet. Let's get some time when we get the updated business plan. I'm still waiting for the updated business plan, okay? Number two, I sent you and Margot an email this afternoon because when I had my talk and I presented the highlights of what's going on with the cable, I asked for this to be posted. I have not seen it on a website yet. When we did a cable posting from Optimum 2 years ago, it took 2-3 months to get it up. So if you people have followed up with it, or can I go directly to the webmaster and get it up, because it's very informative and it has a number of contacts and things, and will happen. Okay. And was there a Comcast meeting this week? I didn't know about it. And I also, I would like, again, I was excluded when I asked to get involved, and I was told that I could not be part of this broadband consultant activity going on because I wasn't a township employee. Okay, at that time I said I'll go work for the town for $1 a year. Nobody took me up on it. So that's it. I'd like the questions answered, please. And then to have a minute left, because I wasn't going to say anything about the cannabis situation, but I haven't been involved with it, but I have a lot of experience in it. And if there is a committee or a group or something going on, my management consulting company has 2 clients that are in the cannabis business. I work with this entrepreneurial group called Real Cannabis in New Jersey. They do meetings, they help small businesses, minority groups, how to set up the cannabis shops. So I have some experience I'd like to offer if there's anything that is needed. And also, about 1.5 years ago, I testified as an expert witness on a downtown area in Monmouth County, one of the towns, on the pluses and minuses of having cannabis things. And in conclusion, if we do the cannabis, I think it should be somewhere in a Raritan Center area, which is commercial, industrial. It won't affect houses. It won't affect neighborhoods. It wouldn't affect people lining up to get into the stores on Main Street, whatever, or neighborhoods. So I offer my help on that. So anyhow, please get back to me with the answers. And thank you. And again, the patience you had with the last speaker, is good, but I don't know, I might have called to have him extricated from the meeting. So thank you all.
Thank you, Bruce.
Council President, so Mr. Seitz, I'm looking in my inbox, I did not receive that email. You sent it when?
About 4 o'clock.
I don't have it in my inbox. We'll look in junk, but it's not there. So if I find it, I'll let you know. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. Come your money.
You recognize?
79 6th Street, Edison, New Jersey. I've come to talk about the ordinance that support the 4-story building. I think it's the Ordinance 0-1936-2016. I've come once again to appeal that it should be repealed. I don't know how convenient is it. We'll be coming to tell you what we want. We want to let you know that we do not want a giant, I don't know what to call it, whatever, into a tiny space that we have no enough parking. We have no walkway for anybody. And we'll be talking about over and over and over again. We've come to talk to you as the residents of Clarabati that we don't want it. It's like you build a wall over us. We crawl into our homes right away. For those people that came into the place to visit, you will remember how uneasy for us to even come out of, like if you are going on 2nd or 3rd Street, to turn into the street takes forever. There's water running everywhere when it rains. I really do not know what else we can do. We keep on telling you, we don't want this. We've appealed, we beg, we've talked. It's like somebody has decided that that particular part of the town, we have come to appeal to you that we love the ways it is beautiful, we like the section, we love everything about that place. And we want you to just see that everything in that place is like a puzzle that is connected to us that live in that place. Whatever you are bringing that is 4, 5, 6, we don't want it. It's like shocking us. It's like you just decided that, oh, this is a tiny piece, and you decided, oh, let's put it 4, we put 4 there, put 4 there. If we want to live in those places, we know where they are. We go to Manhattan, we go to Jersey City. I don't know why it's so easy. I don't know, we've appealed, we've talked and talked and talked. Each time you allow us to come here and talk as if, say something that we shouldn't do. And each time we talk, everybody, the people that knows what is right, they talk about it, but we don't get an answer. We have come to say once again that this particular ordinance will be coming forever. We don't want 4-story building. We don't want a giant or like a giant stack, a giant ship in a tiny piece that doesn't have enough parking. It doesn't have a walkway for the children that are going to school. Whatever decision you take concerning that place, remember that we live there. You are taking decision about it. For some people that live at the back, they could go through the back. Some of us cannot go through the back. We don't want the 4-story. Can you please repeal this so that we take another fight? Because it has, for us Clarabati residents, we know we have to struggle, we have to fight, we have to come here every day to talk about our needs before it will be done. We fought for the library, we are fighting for the 4-story building. We're begging you not to put vehicles or building that are bigger than its space over us. just do this for us so that we pick another battle. And of course, I will talk a little about the cannabis. I'm quite sure some people are working online to just know the next discussion on this. The residents are watching. They want to know what you want to do. But keep us in mind. We are clarified. We are appealing to you to repeal this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Diamarin, 25 Wiley. First of all, I couldn't be more embarrassed right now, what just happened previously. First, Deputy Chief just stepped out, but he deserves an incredible apology. I think that is just outrageous what happened. I'm no lawyer. I don't know how that's acceptable and how that's, allowed to happen. It is an embarrassment. Sometimes you just do something, throw them out, and let the pieces fall where they may. There's crazier lawsuits out there than throwing this guy out. So he deserves an incredible apology. The man's family has a long history here serving this community, and I'm embarrassed. And again, my apologies to Deputy Chief Dudash. And speaking of the police department, I'd like to first know the patrol numbers. Are we at capacity? Are they where they're supposed to be? Do we know the PD numbers? If they are, I'd like to know that. If not, how far back are we in the patrol, on the patrol unit itself? Claire Barton. First you had the library trying to take that away. Now you have the 4-story building. You had, Councilman Coyle, he was not here today, walked out on the Claire Barton residence a few meetings ago. I don't know what it takes. He Mr. Coyle, who, likes to take credit for a lot that goes on in Claire Barton. I don't know why he and the council's not listening to the Claire Barton residents. Clearly they don't want a 4-story building to repeal it. Maybe there needs to be a subcommittee for that as well. But I don't know what it takes. They don't want it, and hopefully their elected officials stand with them. Vehicles at Edison High School. I've been told a couple times now, again today, they've been vandalized, slashed. I don't know if the council, I'm sure the PD is aware of that, but that goes back to my overall, the PD, the patrol numbers. I like to get as many patrol people as possible. So I like to know where those numbers are at. The vehicle auction, the money that is raised from the auction itself, where does that money go? Does it go to anywhere specific, any department, to the PD? Does it go to what's done with that money that's raised there? Let's see, and that is it. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Anthony. Anyone else? Come on.
Good evening, Council. My name is Gopi Atali, 18 Sagamore Avenue, Edison, New Jersey. And thank you all for last week for vetoing down the ordinance for cannabis. I think I'm just back here because I saw it in the agenda that there is a discussion point on cannabis. I won't take much time, but I just came late. Apologies, I came around 6:30. Where a senior gentleman was speaking on, potential help of scouting the locations, or I don't know what was discussed, but I'm sure there are enough residents who value Edison and who are willing to help and care to make sure that Edison is safe. Now I have 2 questions to ask, right? In this whole thing, I mean, there was no information to go off. How many licenses, right? I heard 10 who have been assigned. They're all over the place, right? So how many licenses have been given out and that have received the state approval? And how many of those, what category do they fall under, right? And I heard something that there are discussions of scouting places and everything. So what is the plan? I know there is a plan. What, as Edison residents, we don't want anything, right? If that is the plan, if council is working towards that, great. But otherwise, what exactly is the plan? What is in the mind, so that, the township is aware upfront rather than later. So where do we stand? What are the licenses? What categories do they have? And do we have anything like already approved under construction? And like thank you. And if the senior citizens are people who are willing to help, I mean, we would like to keep this safe with the underline that we don't want any. Thank you very much, and for your patience.
Thank you, Gopi. Anyone else? You already spoke, right, Bruce? You want to make a rebuttal? Okay. I don't think there's a rebuttal on this section, Bruce. Yeah. Maybe some for the other portion. All right, seeing no one else, motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close?
Second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving to the review of the minutes for the work session of November 27, 23. Do we need to do anything there? No. And reports from all council committees, starting on my right. Councilman Brescher.
None at this time, sir.
Council Vice President.
Yes, the subcommittee to the Edison Animal Shelter met via Zoom last Tuesday, March 5th, and there's really a lot of good news to report. First of all, the contract with the MCSPCA ended on March 1st. And in addition to that, Dr. Feddersen, the vet, has left due to the scheduling conflicts she's had. So currently, the VCA of Islin will do wellness visits on Tuesdays, and there will be a travel vet for spay, neuter, and testing weekly in the spring and summer, biweekly other seasons. Garden State Vet will be on hand for any emergency services. The current population, the adoption, we had a lot of good news on adoptions. 17 cats, this is over the last month. 17 cats, 9 dogs, 2 ferrets were adopted in this past month. 2 cats and 10 dogs were returned to owner. These were strays. The current shelter population is 18 cats, 6 kittens, 16 dogs, 4 of which are small dogs. We are partnering with Best Friends Rescue to take in cats over 2 pounds. Sonia, is that correct? Do I have that right? It's the cats over 2 pounds?
Yes.
Okay, all right. The foster program will resume when the volunteer program is reconstituted. RFPs are out for an architect. A dog scale has been procured. The intake room has turned into a maternity room. And we are expecting that over the next few months, there are going to be a lot of kittens that are going to be born, a lot of litters. Good news, 0 parvo, 0 feline leukemia cases. Euthanizations have included wildlife brought to the shelter, 2 cats upon pickup, and 2 dogs for aggression. The DOAs, dead on arrival, included 2 wildlife, 10 cats, and 7 dogs. Upcoming events. There was one yesterday over at the Tavern on George, which from what I understand from Maria Flores, was extremely successful. I think 10% of the proceeds were donated to the shelter, and it was, I visited there between 5 and 6, and it was really, really crowded. So we did very well. There are upcoming events in March. Give me one moment. So we have Taco Tuesday is at Edison Tex-Mex Deli at 2024 Woodbridge Avenue in Edison, and that will be Tuesday, March 26th from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that is that event. And then Pizza Night at Edison Pizza is going to be on Wednesday, March 13th, so this coming Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So again, these are proceeds are going to be going to the shelter, whatever percent that will be. Also in the month of March, the adoption, there's a Save a Senior adoption special. So I think they have a couple of senior dogs named Stormy and Clarence. And for March, the fee to adopt these dogs is $75. Coming up in April, we have, so we had Tales at the Tavern yesterday. We have a Sunday pizza party at the, let's see, this is going to be at Skullboys Pizza Shack. And that is on April 7th from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And proceeds will apply, will be applying. There will be a kitten shower. This is at the animal shelter, April 21st, 12 to 4, and you meet adoptable kittens, watch a live bottle feeding demonstration, participate in fun games and activities, enjoy refreshments. So this is the onslaught of litters that we are expecting. And then finally, Barks at the Brownstone. That's going to be Saturday, April 27th. And doors open at 5 p.m. at the Brownstone, and that's that's an adoption event and fundraiser event, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilman Patel.
None at this time, sir.
Councilman Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. The Education Liaison Committee met on Tuesday, February 27th. This was our first meeting of the year, so the agenda was a little bit light, but some of the general overviews. We're discussing traffic and walkability around some of the schools. If there is an education component with the Stelton Center, how the Board of Education would be able to assist in that. The Board of Education is also going to be updating their demographic study, so once that is situated, I'll be sure to advise. And Deputy Chief Toth had asked about if there would be interest from the students to do something similar to the Junior Police Academy, but on the fire side. And Deputy Chief Dudash had indicated that the Junior Police Academy and the high school variant would be back again this year. For Parks and Rec, I've reached out to the director of the Recreation Department to schedule an initial meeting. For the Smart City Advisory Committee, the next meeting is this Thursday, March 14th, 7:30 p.m. here at Council Chambers. And the Environmental Commission will be meeting here next Thursday, March 21st at 7:30 here at Town Hall. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Councilman Shmuel.
No, sir.
All right. As for me, the Open Space Committee met here on Thursday, and we discussed Truman Drive sidewalks, whether they're going to be on both sides or just one side, and how will Kilmer and Truman crossing be handled. I reached out to the administration. I am still waiting on the answers for that. There was also a request to extend the 35 miles per hour that is being implemented in Highland Park to see if we can extend that out to the Plainfield in Edison. I think that we're going to reach out to the county and state to see if we can implement that. Also, a request was made. There's a pathway behind the Edison Jets field that kind of cuts off and it doesn't connect to the Papiani Park. Open Space was wondering if we can connect that, and the administration has gotten back to me stating that they will have the director look into it as soon as the sports building project is completed. And for the purchase, there was a request for purchase of 204 Tyler Road, and we can get funding through Greenway. So that is something the administration is interested in. They're just doing their due diligence with the environmental research to see if that is something that we can purchase down the road. Now, in terms of answering the questions that we have gotten, I am going to answer the ones that were very specific that the deputy can answer, and then there were certain topics that were just everyone was interested in, which is Clara Barton, cannabis, broadband. That one I'll let the council answer if they choose to. To Deputy Chief, do we have the patrol numbers? Is that something you can answer now or no? Anthony Deamarin asked for the patrol numbers if we are at capacity in terms of the patrolling.
So in terms of patrol officers, we're actually in the process of hiring some additional officers very soon. So we will be adding to our ranks. Once we have those officers in place, we can kind of take a look at where we stand in the overall numbers of our patrol squads. But I can't say we're at full capacity at this point, no.
Okay, and I'm guessing this is what he would want to know. How far are we looking to get into the full capacity? How long would that be?
Well, I think that's a discussion we need to have with the administration and yourselves as far as how many officers budgetarily we could add to our ranks. So I really can't give you a number at this point.
Okay, Sonia?
If I can just add to that, so piggyback off the deputy chief, we've conducted interviews of about 10 or so, and we are trying to finalize that list. There's a process that this goes through. I believe the capacity, or the number, if you will, is 195, and I believe that that is where this would land.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. There's also the question of vehicle auctions. Where does that money go?
This ties into revenue,
Revenue? Okay.
or under the general fund.
Okay, and I'm not sure if you know this as to how many licenses the state gave out for cannabis
I believe there is one, from what I understand.
for
Yep.
Edison? Okay, so we do have one. And do you know where that will be? Do we have one license already?
No, we don't, the state handed a license correction.
Okay, all right.
Yes, there is one. If you want to know who it is, I can follow up with that information.
And in terms of the categories and the licenses allowed, I think it's on the ordinance. Right?
Correct.
And we have 3 retail, from what I understand, and 7 for the other, right?
I believe there's a growing,
Growing, distribution,
yeah.
Manufacturing, delivery. Okay. Then in terms of Clara Barton and the 4 stories, if any council members would like to speak to it.
I was going to actually put this in points of light, but this is fine to do it now. So as Akhtar, our very involved and engaged citizen, Akhtar Nasser, said, he took me for a tour on Friday after work, which was very enlightening and instructive. And I now see this, seeing it in 3-dimensional is much more powerful than just talking about it or having it written down. So seeing is believing. I'm grateful first to you, Akhtar, for your stewardship on this, and I'm grateful to all the Clara Barton residents for their interest. It's really pretty outrageous what's going on there and what's proposed to go on there. Clara Barton is such a lovely area of our town, and turning these properties that are just way too small into possibly 4-story buildings is outrageous. It's really outrageous. And the building that currently is 4 stories, that there's, I guess, some plan to build an addition onto that, which is as ugly as sin, just from my viewpoint. I think trying to just slide these proposals, these buildings into these small spaces is not doing the town any service, and it's certainly not doing the section any service. And so I understand what the Clara Barton residents have been saying and have been pleading, and I do believe that the ordinance, that ordinance 1936, 2016, I do think it needs a real strong second look and look to repeal it. So I'm glad I saw what I saw. I'm concerned about what I saw, and I hope that these residents really can be heard now, and that this isn't just pushed off for the next meeting and the next meeting until it comes here to die. So that's what I want to say to that. And so I'm open to any of the residents, and especially the Clara Barton residents. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free. If you want to show me more, I'm happy to arrange that. So that's what I wanted to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Anybody else?
President.
Councilman Patel?
I think it's not the problem of today. It was a problem of yesterday, especially the Clara Barton. It's a nice historical neighborhood. If you watch the council meeting all the way from 2016, 17, 18, 19, this council, some of the members had the huge resistance. In fact, I was one of the speaker who really, I was asking not to even go with the 4-story building closer to Lidl Avenue, when that road especially goes to the senior housing all the way in the back, and it was very dangerous. Again, it's the will, the majority of the council that survived, and here we go. So this is the problem of yesterday, this is the problem of today, and this will continue to be the problem of tomorrow unless this council really acts in the good faith of the residents of Clara Barton. Otherwise, we'll keep talking and nothing will happen. So our quick actions should be really re-look at the current ordinance and repeal that ordinance and make sure that few things that we need to really enforce, not just the 3-story buildings, but on top of that, looking at the historic Clara Barton, especially Emba Avenue and the neighboring street. We have a huge problem of parking. We shouldn't be giving any waiver to any developer or redeveloper who is coming in this town and trying to build this, even 3-story building, no waiver. There shouldn't be any waiver even for the sidewalk. It's very unsafe for, not only for kids, also for the residents of the Clara Barton. So anything that, we are bending backward for the redeveloper, we need to get away with that. Maybe they can do certain things in certain section of the town where there is enough land, but Clara Barton is unique in nature, the way it is structured. So I would request this council to, put some effort in looking at preserving the historical neighborhood. Yes, we need a small, I would say, call it a downtown, but nice looking neighborhood that is safer and good for the quality of life for our people. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Anyone else?
Yes.
Councilman Brescher?
I'd like to say that, yes, I did, under the request of the residents, I did request it of our law firm. They told me they were going to look into it. And they have a path forward for us on this. In fact, I was told that we could do it by resolution to send it back. Now, that's a little bit different than what my council colleague at the other end was just talking about revisiting the entire neighborhood. And I think that's a good thing. In fact, I'd encourage, if anybody from Clara Barton would like to get a group of people together, and we might be able to talk about what works in your neighborhood. I've explained it to Councilman Coyle, but he hasn't brought any people together on that. So I'm going to ask the people from Clara Barton to set up a meeting. I'd be glad to come and talk about some of the different alternatives that are out there that I think you guys might like. If you don't like it, we don't need to move forward on it. But I'm going to request, though, that we do move forward on a resolution. I think, Nish, we were talking about Wednesday, about sending it back to the planning board, which I believe that's the first stage. And could we have the attorney kind of just explain that process? Because it's a little not normal.
So prior to the meeting, I spoke with you, Mr. Brescher. I spoke with Council President Patel. It was passed in 2016 as a redevelopment plan. That is what's over at the planning board, and it's overlay zoning. So speaking with the director of legal, what I discussed earlier today was putting together a resolution for Wednesday that could be introduced, which would then send it back to the planning board for an amendment to the redevelopment plan that would both ensure that there's no unintended consequences from making the amendment and make sure that it's in line with the master plan, and then come back here to the council for approval and adoption, which is essentially the fastest way to get it done. They would just have to review that, send it back. So long as it comes back appropriately, the council could then just approve the amendment to the redevelopment plan. Otherwise, there are other options if there's some dispute with the planning board that doesn't slow things down.
Thank you, Neil. Anyone else would like to speak to it?
Council President?
Councilman Pointer?
Just for clarification, is this just on the Amboy Avenue item, or?
Amboy, Clara Barton with the 4 stories.
I'm going to kind of slide in the warehouse item, but it ties in with what I'm about to say.
I will open that up afterwards.
The Amboy Avenue, just for clarification, the last application before the planning board was a 3-story building that was denied. So just for clarification purposes, The rehabilitation area, I tried to make that statement, I think it was 2 meetings ago, and how that was different than just repealing a general ordinance because of how that works. And just for time frame, any amendment on a redevelopment or rehabilitation plan, the planning board has 45 days. So that 35-day time frame is different in regards to rehabilitation. It is important that if we're going to be adjusting the ordinance, that much like how residents have asked for the public advocate to have a established record and reasoning behind actions of boards, this council also has to have those reasonings and such behind it to justify why actions are happening. If you do not believe me, I would ask you to look up what is currently going on in Bridgewater with their warehouse lawsuit. I'm on record for saying that I'm not in favor of 4 stories. That was my very first meeting ever getting involved back in January of 2016. The master plan does play a role into it because of the rehabilitation aspect, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
If you don't mind, can you talk about the off-parking situation? That is something I'm interested in. So, do you want to talk about it? No? Okay.
I'd prefer to hold off until there's more solidified, because it's only conceptual at the moment.
So in terms of the 4 stories, I also spoken to Akhtar and met with Akhtar, and I agree that neighborhood doesn't need 4 stories to be successful, and that is pretty much everyone's in agreement there. But I do believe that we do need to revitalize the area. I just don't know, we should, as many suggested here, that we should have a meeting with the community and see what our vision is, and we should have a cohesive vision as to what we want to do with that area. I don't believe, I believe the parking is an issue. I believe pedestrian safety is an issue. All of these things need to be tackled, and we need to make sure that the businesses thrive so that, we can get more better restaurants and some things to do in that area. And I think maybe having a bar down there, I'm not sure if that's just a suggestion, but having something to do there will be a great source of a point where everyone can gather and just, I think that's what I would like for that area. But as the legal explained, that there is a step that we're taking to move forward with this. It's not as fast as the residents would like, but we are going to move forward. Now on to the...
Wait, Council President, can I just say one more thing? What I didn't say before is that if there was ever a case for a public advocate, to me, this is one of these cases for a public advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the broadband revised business plan, do we know when that will be?
Sure, we are going to get that up in the next couple of weeks on the website, so it will be before the next meeting. I have some other questions.
Sure. I think... Yeah, go ahead.
Or answers to other questions, if you will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can go in order. So there is a billboard warehouse, Amboy Ave, public advocate. With regard to the senior citizen building on the Tote Center, so there is only one stop work order. We've never not issued any other one, and that is related to the remediation that is ongoing. So there's a second portion of remediation that has to be done because we need to dig further into the soil. Okay. So there's only still one stop work order. Nothing else new has been issued. Okay. With regard to the house music, I believe it is the 3rd year we've done this, and this is just on the calendar. With regard to Comcast and what the BPU issues, we don't have any control over that in terms of their dates and announcements. And business plan, we're working on that. There was a question with regard to vandalism at the Edison High School, so I will follow up with police and get the numbers to see if what are the current issues there and how are we remediating. Okay. I believe that's all I have for now.
Okay, and there's no talking back and forth. The public portion is closed. And in terms of the digital billboard ordinance and the warehouse ordinance, that is being worked on, and it is not finalized yet. If anybody would like to speak to it, is more than welcome to.
Council President?
Councilman Quinn.
Just a request to legal to review the questions that we had, or if there's an update. All right.
It's still being addressed.
Understood.
It's a priority. I'm trying to get it unchallengeable to the extent that I can. There is a great deal of conflict in what is an acceptable content regulation versus what is not, based upon what the township wants to do and needs to do. So we're trying to make sure that it is not something that's going to be immediately challenged or not be effective in what we want it to do. I mean, that would just be a waste of everyone's time and effort. So.
Okay, and I think if I missed any council member remembers any questions that they want to answer, then.
Council President, can I just mention something on the warehouse thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Current municipalities that are dealing with lawsuits pertaining to warehouses: Bridgewater, Franklin, Hillsborough, Sparta, Harrison, Piscataway. These are all municipalities, or let me rephrase, there are a couple of those municipalities that took actions in regards to restricting warehousing in their municipality. They are being challenged in the appellate courts because of the reasonings that were found to support those ordinances. Bridgewater, it was either Bridgewater or Hillsborough, where there was an application before the board. The municipality, the council then went to amend the ordinance because of that, was amended, and now they are being challenged in the appellate courts. So I understand the desire to get this done, but as I've said from the beginning, I want to do so in a manner that, as our legal just said, that is not challengeable and becomes defensible on our end. Thank you, Council President.
I think Councilman Pointer. Seeing none, moving on to points of light. Any council member with a point of light?
Yes, Council President, just to wish all of my gender a very happy International Women's Month. And I'm very pleased to see that there's a resolution on the agenda for marking this occasion. And I thank Councilman Pointer for putting that on the agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Council President?
Councilman Pointer?
Likewise, as Council Vice President Harris just mentioned, I'd like to wish particularly the women a happy Women's History Month. Whether it be in the legislature, as diplomats, in the arts, activism, it's important we remain cognizant of these contributions that women have had in our society and continue to promote equal opportunity for all. For anyone that is celebrating Ramadan, I am hoping you have a rewarding fast that brings enlightenment, strength, and peace to you, your family, and friends. And for anyone that will be celebrating St. Patrick's Day this weekend, I hope we have a good time, but please be safe. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Anyone else? Seeing none. For me, I also want to wish happy Ramadan and happy St. Patrick's Day. And to all the women out there, you guys are doing amazing, and keep it up. And this month is too short to recognize all the things that you have contributed. Moving on to each department's number 8 from the Business Administration, A through E. Any questions or comments?
Council President, on A, I spoke to the Mayor's Chief of Staff, Mr. Deal, because I have an issue with the way these terms are being distributed. I see that the people who have been on this committee that has turned into a commission, who've been on for a full year and have been working very hard, 2 of them, Michelle Sudakar and Diana Jaffe, Kathleen Carlucci came along a little bit later, but has been with us most of the time, but that they are given 1-year terms, and the new people, and this is no disrespect to the new people, we're glad to have them, the Varsha Naik and Jayesh Mehta, they have 2 terms of 2 years and 3 years respectively. I would like to see the people who have been with us for the whole time be rewarded with longer terms. And so I've put this to Bob Deal. He will speak to the mayor about it, and we'll see if there is a revision coming up for Wednesday's meeting.
All right, thank you, Council Vice President.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, not about that one, but other ones.
Okay, go ahead. Councilman Drescher.
I'll start with 8E, the crossing guards. I noticed that the union has approved this.
Correct. They ratified it last Thursday.
My question is, why would their contract only be a one-year contract? Do we have any other unions in the town that are working on a one-year contract?
There's no one here with a one-year contract, but let me just, this is for 4 years.
Oh, is it?
So I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Where is it? Terms of the agreement, July 120. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. No glasses for that time. All right, thank you on that one. On D, this is somebody to build us a website. And listen, I understand that the administration has the council votes to pass this, right? We've watched this over and over and over again. But in this instance, because when I look at what we're doing here, we're going to award it to someone for like 300% more than what it is, than the lowest bidder, right? And, well, some of my colleagues might say, you know, could be quality. I give them that. But when we look even at the scoring, it looks like they're scoring around 213, and I don't know, a lower guy, well, all the lower guys really, are scoring like 196. So it's like the difference between a kid that gets an A+ and a kid that also gets an A+, but instead we're going to pay 300% more. Now, what I'd ask is if our chief of police could take a look at this contract, at the owners and the employers, and whether they have violated pay-to-play ordinances that are in place and laws. And my reason for that is that I have found relationships that look suspect. So I'd ask for our police department just to go through that and make sure there's no pay-to-play ordinances broken here, but to pay 300% more for anybody, Sonia, when they're so close, I can't even use words. I almost want to scream and go, who did this? What was the intelligence level of the person that decided to put this on my agenda to pay so much more? I really don't get it. And I'd like a personal callback from yourself or the mayor or whoever decided that this was really the right thing to do. I'd like to see if I can get that personal call tomorrow before I'll probably lose it here tonight.
Council President, if I may answer some of that in terms of the process. So the police department does not have any role in terms of the pay-to-play. That would be under the law, the local public contracts law, which the pay-to-play threshold is $17,500, and that relates to any political contributions, as you know, in terms of that, how that goes. So the police doesn't have jurisdiction over that. Rather, it's the Department of Community Affairs under the Division of Local Government Services. So those folks there, including the comptroller, the state comptroller. What the process is under a competitive contracting bid is that we go out and get an RFP done, a request for proposals. The way in which you determine how you award it is, again, through this evaluation, and the evaluation is based on cost, management, and technical. Specifically to this, well, let's go back to the bids that we received. This does not go to the lowest bidder. It goes to the most qualified bidder, as explained, cost, management, and technical. So the numbers range from $71,500 to $187,500. The qualified corporation, well, ex-Deuce Corporation, met the timeline as far as cost, which is not the only contributor, but also the management of the project. There was an extensive amount of cybersecurity experience on their end, and they are a qualified certified municipal web consultant. I can certainly provide some of that additional information to you But that is the process that we follow with regard to the local public contracts law, and if the attorney would just like to expand on that, but that is what we follow.
Okay, so let me explain. Oh, listen, I'm not saying that it might be okay. It might be okay. What I'm saying though is that there are certain relationships here, and there's donations that have been made, fundraisers. Okay, so if we want to get into this in the public instead of do it privately like I did, we'll do it publicly. So that's a concern of mine, and that's where I'm going to say that's what I was asking the police chief to look into it. But if you're going to then tell me that it has to be done by the controller of New Jersey, I will contact the controller of New Jersey tomorrow to look at these relationships. When you talked about dollar amounts, I'm looking at one here. There's $36,000 and then another $3,600. So you said it was between 71 and 187, but I'm looking at 36,000 plus 3,600. I'm even willing to always throw out, the lowest bidder at points when they're so low. But you have two consistent bidders that are in the $70,000 range, and we're going to award this to somebody that's twice as high. Now, based upon your criteria, this is where I tell you I get upset, because based upon your own scoring criteria, I'm looking at a number of 196, 184, and this person that scored 213. Now, where I'm going is for those couple points more, you're saying we should pay them double. And I'm not seeing where this is for a website. I've had websites that I had built. Granted, it would be smaller than the township, that I will tell you. But it just, if you have people this low, and my real concern is, right, I had all these council people here that were like, let's open up drugstores all over the town so we could save money, right? And right here, we're wasting $77,000. Now, I don't know that we're wasting it because maybe my colleagues will vote no, even though I do believe that the administration has these votes in their pocket. But if you could contact me, and because this is alarming.
Sure, no problem.
That would be it, Council President.
All right, thank you, Councilman Brescher. Anyone else?
Council President?
Can I just ask a question on what Councilman Brescher said?
Let's Councilman Pato go, and then go ahead,
Thank you,
Councilman Pato.
President. I'll start with B, Resolution B. A couple of questions through Council President to Sania. It's a good thing that, we are accepting the Green Acres grant, but when I read the resolution, it says it's a matching, or I would say greater portion. If we don't get a grant, we still have the money. My question there is this for the existing project that is already budgeted and we are just looking at additional grant, or we suspect that will cross, if it is existing project, because it's Angels Field, it will cross the budget and we might need more money. So where this falls?
You're going on the right path. So right now, this is phase one of the project, and we do have the allocated funds. We do anticipate putting some additional funds into capital, which would then allow us to proceed with additional portions of this project.
Okay, so there is a phase two, pretty much we are gearing towards the phase two.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, question on, my council colleague pretty much covered, but question on D. I'm an IT guy, 27 plus years. I was shocked when I saw the number 144,000. We are talking about the municipal website. We are not talking about the HDL portal. We are not talking about digitalizing your engineering drawings or any of those. Again, I'm not going to question in terms of who it is awarded, but my question is going to be if you can send me the bid specs, plus what I'm looking is a tech stack for each of the bidder, what the tech stack they are proposing, what is their hosting model, what is their maintenance model, and their experience. I saw, actually, I looked at across the board for pretty much for every single company. I did not feel that it was really out of the way that people were bidding. But even the lowest bidder, I was surprised that it is that high. So I'll be looking, again, for some of this information so that I can decide whether it is the right thing to do.
regardless of the answer, what I will say is spending $144,000 for, I would say, not a critical project. This is not something we are dying or we are out of service or something that is falling apart. We have a decent website. So the additional information I'm going to ask you, the stats of our current website, how many people are using. I know the intent is to improve the outreach, but my question is going to be how many people are using by page, what the stat is.
Sure. So generally speaking, all of the departments are required to use the township website and their support staff. So we're talking, it could be potentially 100 users that are using it actively.
Okay. What I'm asking is if you are talking about just the township employees, they are using this website, current website, I would like to understand by department what is the usage, because this is pretty much a static website. I was involved back then when this was redesigned, so I pretty much know, what the usage is. So I'll be interested by department, how many people are using, for what purpose they are using, and as well I would like to see the stat on the residents, how many of those residents are using. That's going to be an important part for me. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilman Shmuel?
Thank you, Council President. So I had a similar question that Councilman Brescher had. I think the business office does a stellar job. I don't need to get into the weeds of how this contract was picked out. But my question is, are we able to negotiate to get closer to the lower bidders with the preferred vendor?
We're not, under local public contracts, we're not allowed to negotiate.
So it's a closed bid, and then
It's done through public advertisement, so everything is transparent in nature, and then we cannot negotiate a price. We don't have that ability under the law.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Shmuel. So from Councilman Pointer, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. I do have some technical items that I'll bring offline. I know Councilman Patil may better understand like the hosting aspect and all that follow-up. The one counter I would say in regards to the website usage is that I personally don't think that the current format or how things are listed on the website are really optimal for them to be used. So I think that those stats are automatically going to be lower in and of themselves. And the hope would be that the revised website would actually increase those usage. However, from a metric standpoint, obviously that would be good to know how much the new website, if it does go through, has helped the residents of the township. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer. So I agree with Councilman Pointer that as of right now, I don't think we even track how many users are visiting each website. One of the bid spec requires that we track this. It also tracks how the public is using the websites and what improvements we can make. I think the whole point of this website is to make it better for the residents to come to a central location for the source of truth. If you want to know what the events are, everything should be available in front and center, and making it easier for the residents to follow what the administration and what the council and what other things that are happening around town. If we continue down what we are doing, I think we are going to be getting less and less interaction with the residents. So that's the whole point.
Yeah. Just, Council President, I want to, if you allow me, the current website does allow the tracking.
Do we have tracking as to how many?
The second thing is, in fact, last year I did bring up that my Edison NJ app was part of the current portal, which is, I don't know why we discontinued. It is no longer there. It is installed on my phone. I used to use that very actively, but it's no longer available. So if we have put the bid in a way that, revise the current website rather than discarding, because again, we are the town of, it's known for innovation, it's known for technology. We have huge number of technology people living in this town. I myself is, 27 years technology person. When I looked at the amount itself, believe me or not, I was blown out of my mind saying, okay, something probably we are trying to develop some rocket ship, but I will leave it to, the council to decide. And I will make the comment once I receive the supporting document that would help. Thank you, Councilor.
I think Sonia just forwarded it to us, so we can take a look at it. All right, moving forward to number 9, from the Department of Finance, A through C. Any questions or concern? Seeing none, moving to number 10 from the Department of Health. A,
Yes, Council President?
Council Vice President.
Yes, I'm very pleased and optimistic about this particular resolution, and I received more of the backup from Sonia this morning. And this, just briefly, this would, let me see what if I can get, the program description is that what is the ED? The Edison Department of Health and Human Services will utilize Check for Safety programs funding to expand Mr. Fix-It service to conduct falling hazard safety interventions for our older residents, as well as residents with disabilities. As it currently stands, the Mr. Fix-It program is only offered to senior residents and is used to complete minor home repairs that they would not be able to complete on their own. This funding would allow falling hazard safety intervention measures to be installed in residents' homes through the existing program. Applicable residents would be those at risk of falling in their own home. This would also mean that Mr. Fix-It would also provide safety interventions for residents with disabilities that are at risk of falling in their home. According to the United States Census Bureau's American Communities Survey 5-year estimates, there are currently 22,278 adults age 60 and above living in the township. Additionally, there are 3,945 residents living with ambulatory disability. Both groups of residents are exposed to an increased risk of falling in their households and will be the target audience of this program. So I'm not going to go on with that, but in any case, I think this is a tremendous service to our seniors, and falling is a huge liability that often leads to pneumonia and sometimes to death. So I'm hoping that this grant goes through, and I applaud it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President.
Council President, just a quick question through Council President to Sonia. It's good to see that we are applying for the grant. My question is, how much we as a township pours the money in addition to the grant that we receive for the senior citizens?
So this specifically to Mr. Fix-It?
Yes.
So we covered the portion of the salary. Actually, the salary is covered through the affordable housing numbers. But as far as all of the other ancillary things like the light bulbs and things, that's covered through the township, through the Public Works Department budget.
Okay, so we use the money from Public Works Department and we have this grant. So the question is how much money, and can we allocate more? Because now, as I hear that we are moving forward with the outreach, the bigger and better outreach, there may be many senior citizens, they may not be aware of how to use this particular program. So improve the outreach will definitely need more funds. So that's my question is tailored toward that. Do we have some numbers in the mind that we will be allocating in 2024 budget for these type of services? You don't have to answer now, but you can.
Yeah, we can certainly look into it as something that you're, yeah.
Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you, Councilman Patel. Seeing none, moving on to number 11 from the Department of Law. A, any questions or concern?
Council President? Yeah, again, it's question to admission through Council President. What's the time frame we are looking for this detour?
So the total time frame that I was told by the county is 6 months. What I did have Marlena provide to you all is the actual closure and the rerouting.
Right. Is there a way that we can send the Nixle alert?
Absolutely. Those are automatic because it gets coordinated through the police department, through the traffic division, to make sure that when the closures do take place, that the Nixle alerts will be sent out. So the deputy chief is here, so I'm sure that will. And this, by the way, was coordinated with Mr. Turner.
Okay. No, the Nixle alert will go because I do get the Nixle alert. I do get text message as well as the email. But this is a long time, this is, I would say, much longer duration. So might have to do that maybe frequently, put something on the website, very first page, something, what the plan is, how the detour works, etc., would be definitely helpful.
We can certainly post it on the website. I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Anyone else?
Yes.
Councilman Brescher?
Sonia, I got this drawing. Could I get one that's blown up a little bit more?
Would you like it electronically where you can expand on it?
That would probably work.
Okay.
Because you know it is, looking at this, I'm wondering how people, if you're going down like the Route 1, I'm going to say that's south, going that way, and you wanted to go to Winslow, you would just continue down to the next traffic light, I guess, and have to make a loop to come back to get to the Winslow side of it.
So the first two streets are still open. It's actually on the Metuchen side that would be closed to folks coming from Metuchen.
Okay. Okay, yeah, if I get the electronic one, just so I can blow it up and take it. I'm just trying to look on my phone, but it'll just be easier. That would be it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. Sonia, is there a possibility, I'm not sure if this is something that we can do as a township, update like Google Maps or something along that line to let people know that, hey, this road will be closed? Because I know a lot of people rely on those devices, so when they go, they'll automatically have the detours and whatnot.
I can certainly look into it and see how those two would tie. I know it's been done that with the Google data.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to number 12 from the Department of Planning and Engineering, A through C. Any questions or comments?
Council President?
Councilman Brescher?
Yes, this is, I'm looking at B, various drainage projects. This is our issue on Calvert that Councilman Patil and Councilman at the time have been asking and trying to get this done for the last, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 years.
6 years, yeah.
6 years. This is what we're talking about, right?
Yes, exactly. And I have our township engineer here if you'd have any additional questions on the work or the scope.
If I might. I'm just looking to get maybe a timeline. I'm looking to do a follow-up because after 6 years, you know, I think, right, we got to just do follow-up and make sure we're getting there.
You're talking the Calvert and
Yes.
sorry, Calvert and Abbott portion, correct?
Yes.
That portion was split off. This was originally known as Various Drainage 2. We split it to separate the portion that has to go to DEP, which is the Calvert and Abbott we're talking about. And the other roads are just going to go out to bid.
Okay, so they're going to go out to bid. We know what we're doing with those. Okay.
Yes. The Calvert and Abbott, we had to acquire easements.
Right.
Finally, after several years of negotiation, we have all the easements in place. So we're able to move forward with Colliers, who prepared the original plans, to complete the plans to the current DEP standards and submit to get our DEP permit so we can move forward with construction drawings.
And what would be the timeline? Like when would you anticipate I should ask about this as to when we're going out to, when we have approval and we'd be looking to go out to bid? Like what would that process be?
Give me one moment. They actually provided a rough timeline in their proposal. So they are actually expecting construction next year in April.
Okay.
I will give you the disclaimer of this is all dependent on DEP and their review time.
Okay.
But they are geared up to work, once we give them the okay that this passes, they are geared up to start within the next 2 weeks.
So if I don't hear anything, it's fine if I ask January, this next coming January, and say, where are we with this? And I'm not going to be like a year away. We're going to be somewhere close.
Based on their rough time schedule, yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Council President, I have the same question, if you don't mind staying there.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Patel.
I know, we kind of split this into, now the two different projects or two different areas. Summer Street is not that far, Summer Street across Plainfield Avenue. Is that linked somewhere or that's completely separate drainage project?
That's separate.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, moving on to number 13 from the Department of Public Works, Resolution A. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, moving on to 14 from the Department of Water and Sewer. A. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Number 15 from the Chief of Police, A and B. Any questions or comments? And seeing none. Number 16 from the Township Clerk, A. Any questions or comments?
Council President, I just want to restate that I'm very, very pleased to see this put down as a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. And we will wait for Councilman Pointer for number 17, the member of the Planning Board. Yeah, we'll just. Do you want to take a recess? How do you want to handle this? You know what, let's move on to the discussion items, and then we'll come back to number 17. Councilman Brusher?
Okay.
Councilman Pointer, you're back. Number 17 from the councilman member of the Planning Board.
Thank you, Council President. I actually had a question on water and sewer. Would that be permissible? I apologize, I stepped away.
That's fine, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Is that okay? Would it be possible to bring up Roger to ask this question?
Sure.
And I appreciate you coming up to hopefully answer. There were two items on the estimate that I was just curious about. One mentioned that they don't include for excavation, and the other was in regards to delays. So would they need excavation? I guess, is this a long-term project?
No, this for the insertion valves, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do the excavation for it, but the one company would need our equipment to complete the job. So if our machine operator messes up their equipment, it's on us. The other company is fully independent, so they can do the entire job without our assistance unless there's a pipe failure.
The note had delays in the sense like, say, a weather delay or something like that. Is this a project that's is it like a week long, 2 weeks long, month long?
It shouldn't take more than 8 hours to do this whole thing. We're gonna excavate the day before they come. We'll plate it, they'll come out, and then we'll schedule the actual project that we have to do.
Okay. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman Pointer.
Pull up. Thank you, Council President. The Planning Board did not have a meeting since the last meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for next Monday, March 18th, 7 p.m. here at Council Chambers. Just a master plan update. The revisions will be presented at next week's meeting. For anyone that's interested in what those recommended changes are, if you go to the website under the master plan tab, there's it's a red line document, but it's highlighted yellow. They updated that onto the website so you can view those changes. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer.
Mr. Pointer, did you want to?
Yes. Thank you. In addition, I would like to add a resolution to the agenda. I believe all of the council members do have it in front of us. Just some background. This is a resolution to reappoint Devondre Dave to the zoning board. There is a current vacancy on the zoning board. There are meetings that are upcoming that if we were to hold off, there would be not a full board on board. So I think that it's important for us to act on this, and I am motioning to add this to the agenda.
Second.
All right, may I have a roll call?
Councilmember Brusher.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Patil.
Yes.
Councilmember Pointer.
Yes.
Councilmember Schumel.
Yes.
Council President Patel.
Abstain. All right, and moving on to discussion items. Councilman Brescher?
Yes, just for everybody's awareness, all of these items that I list don't necessarily, will I talk about at every meeting. The intent, like I have explained, is that since we've changed the intent of the meeting and the format of the meeting, there has to be a way for council to somehow articulate what we need to do. So I'm trying to list every question that I have, and any question the residents have. From that point, depending on what the answers are that comes back, will determine whether I feel I need to talk about it at that upcoming meeting. Sometimes I might need more answers, so I won't talk about it at this time. But that's going to be how I'm going to do the meeting moving forward, because our meetings have changed how they've been done over the last 20 years to this new format. So this is my way to, without encroaching and not following our rules, but to get to everything. So,
Councilman Brescher, you are more than allowed to talk about anything that you put on, and I think as the process has been explained before, like if you have anything that you want to talk about, you're more than welcome to just submit it. And like you said, anything you submitted is here, so you can talk about every single thing.
well, that's right. What happened was I got calls from the administration to ask why I did all this. So if somebody in the administration had those questions, I assume somebody in the public has those questions. So that was my reason for explaining why I'm doing this. Like, and I explained to that administrator that when he was council president, he ran those meetings, and he allowed us to do whatever we did. This was unnecessary. So I recommended that he speak to council president about it, and he might do that, or maybe not. We'll just do this. It doesn't matter. But that was just me just explaining why I have this list. The attorney updates. So we have the update on the 3 and 4 stories. The attorney is working on our tree ordinance to make it so that our residents don't have to pay more than what we've settled for here with like developers. So I hope that by next meeting they could have something drafted. It was a little tricky, I guess, because you can't see. Maybe right. Go ahead.
So there's 2 issues. One, what you asked us to do doesn't exactly do what you want us to accomplish. So while it does address that cost for that subset of residents who would be subject to the contribution in lieu of, it doesn't address the greater issue, which the council seems to have an issue with, which would be why there were certain concessions made to developers. The amendments that are being made to it now take into account both factors so that those concessions don't necessarily have to be made in the future as well. So that is, hopefully, it should be all done and ready for the next meeting, the next set of meetings later in the month. I'll just have to get it submitted to the Director of Legal to go over one more time. He and I had a nice long conversation about it today to make sure that everything was covered and it would have those changes that need to be on there to protect the township better in the future.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Broadband. We'd like to get the total cost. Everybody's been asking, what would be the total cost to pull fiber and make the town fully broadband? And we've never really gotten a number. I mean, the mayor has quoted numbers in his campaign, but they've changed over time. When I say they changed, the number changed by $50 million. So again, that's a pretty big swing. If we could get some kind of cost on this.
All of that should be covered under the business plan.
Okay. The town list, and this has been asked, and in fact, our mayor used to ask all the time, so I'm going to leave this one on here until his administration gets this stuff right, too. We have a list on our website of different committees we have, and there's people on there, and they should be updated. You know, like I know we have an insurance committee. I don't think they ever met, and I don't think we ever appointed anyone, so my question is, why would you have one? But
I would venture to assume that comes from the clerk's office if those are set committees and that gets updated to you all, because you're all assigned to it?
No, like there was, we had a insurance committee. I haven't looked at it in a while, but it was an insurance committee, but they never met. Like the insurance committee, when you come to us and you recommend an insurance broker or an insurance thing, they are supposed to come to this body and say, here's our report, and this is why we should go in this direction. But this administration hasn't done it. The past administration didn't do it, but it was listed on our website. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'll take a look into it.
Right, if there's things that we're not using, let's just remove them. And if there's things we need to update with names, then we should just update them. Wow, cannabis. I'm not going to talk a lot on this. I did hear a resident come today, and he is right in a way. When you have 3 people that spoke in favor of cannabis, right, their voice gets drowned out by 350 people that are saying no cannabis. Now, out of the 350 people, I don't want to say all of them were against cannabis, but they're against it in their backyard, is what I heard from everybody. Nobody wanted in the residential neighborhood. In this day and age, with Amazon and the way that they deliver cannabis, in fact, I got calls from residents that they got a lot of mailers sent to them where they could have the cannabis delivered to your house. That's what they started getting right after that meeting. So, you know, that's the need, right? Like, do we want to have the bar behind my house? Do I drink? Yes, I drink. Do I want the bar behind my house? Absolutely not. You know, and like I said before, did I smoke? Yes, I did. Will I smoke in the future? Yes, I will. Do I want it in my backyard or my neighbor's backyard? Absolutely not. Can we put it in somebody else's neighborhood like Highland Park or Metuchen? 100%. Love it in their neighborhoods. Metuchen's actually pretty close to me. So it's not that we're against it. I voted to legalize it. And like I've heard from elected officials where they keep on quoting some 60 or 70%, like they talk for me, right? They don't talk for me. I didn't vote for it because I wanted to smoke it here in council chamber. I voted for it because I didn't want to see people going to jail for it. And there's a bigger percentage of those than they're the ones that want to sit here and smoke in council chamber. So I'd like to just, I'll end that comment, and I'm hoping that that doesn't come up. But the residents have also asked me to find out about this committee that we were going to set up, and if residents were going to have a say in it. And we heard the residents, you know, ask, because the stakeholders should be in there, right? We have council people that are pro-cannabis, and I think you need them on a committee, and I also think you need the other side on a committee, or you're not representing the township. So whoever forms a committee or whoever's on it, please take into account that we should have residents. I'm going to go jump down to warehouse definitions. I got a call from a resident today that told me that he wanted me, and I told him absolutely not. I said, if my council colleagues are going to come up with a superficial warehouse thing that's really not going to do anything, I'm not going to vote for it. Now, I did talk to my colleague. I did tell him what I'm looking for that makes it like it has some kind of teeth in it instead of like a Gumby. And hopefully they listen and they do that, and that would bring a consensus. But, you know, unless certain small changes are made, I think it's just a superficial, make you feel good kind of thing. And you know what? I'm not doing these superficial things here any longer. Public advocate, people asked. You know, to be honest with you, I'm going to draw up an ordinance. I don't know if I'll put it up this month or next month, but I'm going to put it up. We'll put it up for a vote. We'll see where the vote goes. After that, the public can decide whether they want to go walk for a public advocate or just live without one. But again, when some of these things here don't get passed, you know, to me, that's where the public advocate came in, right? If we had the public advocate that would have built a case on the warehouses in Bridgewater or wherever that might be, right? And they actually built that case, that would have made a difference. But there was no case built, so it's being challenged and it's going to court. So to me, the public advocate was more important than just the plain definitions. Street sweepers. The residents have asked if we can just get a schedule as to when, because they'd like to move their cars. but I'd like to say that I think that the street sweeper is doing a pretty decent job. I don't know that they actually did Grove Avenue in front of my house. Everybody knows that we've had I did notice them all down Livingston and that, but where I'm going with it is, we had a lot of flooding, we had a lot of water, and Grove Avenue didn't flood. So I think the whole maintenance thing is actually a good thing and it's working. Right, I just didn't see them on Grove, but I did see them on Livingston and the side streets, so I'm assuming that they're going by there. The senior center on the north side, do we have a plan for how many rooms that's going to encompass for the senior center?
We're working on the programming. I know there's the large room and a couple of vacant rooms, so we're coordinating between what's currently there and adding to.
Okay, so we're going to get a plan for that, and we're going to know what you're doing with whatever was using those rooms before, unless they were totally unused?
Correct. And we have to coordinate the schedule because there's some folks that do have regular schedules there.
Okay. Update on the Glendale property. I heard from somebody that that's up for development as far as coming from the mayor. So if you could check with the mayor and let me know what type of development we're looking at, like is it single-family homes or is it, maybe townhouses or I don't know what the plan is. I just heard that it's up for a development area.
So the need of redevelopment, that doesn't necessarily distinguish any sort of housing requirement. Rather, it's just a study for a need of redevelopment in the area, and that will come to this council for consideration.
Okay. Do we know when that's going to come up?
I'm hoping the next council meeting, if not the one following after that, but it will come soon.
Okay. Thank you. And, I'm going to end with that one, Council President.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. Moving on to Council Vice President.
Okay, I really want to talk about the awful, horrible, icky meeting we had 2 Wednesdays ago. This was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment to this chamber. It's an embarrassment to the town. And we cannot have this kind of lack of decorum again. It was just awful, and it was awful on the sides of both the public and of this council. The random shouting out from the public when there is a decorum, it's in Robert's rules, there is a decorum to be fulfilled, and that didn't happen. So one amendment I might address, because most of these people that were here normally don't come to council meetings. And so to a certain extent, they can be forgiven for not knowing what the decorum is. However, I would say in the future, we know who the regulars are who come here, and they don't have to be told what the decorum is. But when we have this mass of people come in that really don't come to these council meetings, I do believe that at the very beginning, they need to be instructed on what the decorum is, and that there is no talking back, and there's no shouting, no yelling, and there are respectful guidelines that need to be followed. Same goes for council members, and I've been guilty of maybe talking to whoever's sitting next to me. I've been guilty of that as well. But the disrespect and the constant going up and down to the bathroom several times, that's disrespectful to the public. And I would say this if Councilman Coyle were here, but he's not here, and so maybe he can see this when he watches the meeting. The disrespect that Councilman Coyle has shown to the residents is something that I am very disappointed in. His talking back to, and the Councilwoman Ship Freeman was absolutely right. There's no call for that kind of talking back to her. She's a respected former public servant, and she's a respected member of the public. And Councilman Coyle did this with her, has done this with Joel Bassoff, has done this with people who come here and attend and want to speak their piece. And I'm hoping that Councilman Coyle will take note of what I'm saying right now and abandon this kind of practice. So I'm really, really hoping that we never see the likes of what happened in that council meeting 2 weeks ago again, because it was disgraceful. So that's what I want to say on that. Addressing the public's questions, so doing a better job of that today, doing it in a timely manner, doing a better job of that today. I still would prefer, if it's possible, that when the public has asked their set of questions, I would rather that they be answered in real time instead of waiting until the end, that their questions be addressed, because sometimes, depending on how many people we have in the public who are speaking, then they can't stay to hear the answers. So I'm wondering if we might reconsider when these questions can be answered. I'd asked about the splash park. It was an update on the splash park with regard to any way that the water could be recirculated with a filter and save water, save the expense of water from the township. What I was told, and Sonia, you can just clarify again for me, that it would be too expensive to install such a system. It actually would be cheaper to have the water just coming in fresh. And do I have that right?
Correct, because of the cost of the chemicals and having folks certified to have the proper filtration carry through.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. I'm hoping at some point in the future it might be possible to convert to some kind of recirculation and filtered system if the cost comes down in some way, or there's other technology. Lastly, update on the budget, and I was told that the budget is going to be presented on is it the first meeting in April, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. So those are the questions that were answered, but I really want us to pay particular heed to the issue of decorum and answering the public's questions in a timely manner. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Vice President. Councilman Patel.
Thank you, Council President. I'll start with easy one. The tree ordinance, this is probably third or fourth meeting after we settled the lawsuit, and I was told that we will get it next council meeting. Here we go, we are here. So can I? Questions? No, I need the updated tree ordinance that we spoke several times, and I was told that you will have it in a week or 2 weeks. So let me take a question back. Are we planning to amend the tree ordinance in favor of the residents in lieu of what we agreed backdoor?
So I think I've addressed it a couple of times tonight, but that's so that it's clear. What has been requested is an amendment to the cost for the contribution to the tree fund portion of the ordinance. For the average Edison resident, the application fee is $25 for the removal of a tree from their property, and unless you're removing more than 25% of the trees from your property, that's all you'll pay. If you're paying more than that and are unable to replant any of the trees that you're removing on different parts of the property, and you choose to contribute to the tree ordinance, that's when the tree contribution fund comes in, and that's not even an automatic. That needs to be approved by the reviewing committee to allow you to do so. So the vast majority of residents who are looking to take down a single tree or 2 trees on their property, that's not going to factor in. The change to that has been done, as I addressed with Councilman Brescher earlier. The bigger change that needs to be done is something that I discussed with the Director of Law today, and I'm going to have for this council hopefully by the next council meeting, because that'll address some of the larger legal concerns that this council has expressed with respect to why certain applications have required the compromises that they have. So that should be available to us for consideration at the next set of council meetings. So I think it's a combined meeting at the end of the month.
Well, I think, we should document what we discuss in the closed meeting Not necessarily it will go to the residents, but at least we don't have to rehash. The whole agreement was if you are giving the break to redeveloper, the similar break has to be given to the resident. Because we don't anticipate these residents are going to fight for their right and they will go in a court. So what I'm hearing is we are still giving runaround to an average resident, but we settled the lawsuit, dropping literally at the 11th hour on this council dais and force through settlement of that lawsuit. So again, my question is, Cheryl, if you have those meeting notes, please share with the attorney what the council discussed and what was the consensus on the tree ordinance, and accordingly, sir, you can come back to me, update me on the tree ordinance next council meeting. Moving on to the next one, Grove Avenue update. I know Chief Dudash.
They're still working on the study between engineering and PD, so it's ongoing. I would just ask the chief if we can just expand on that and how much longer that would take.
So I can tell you that the traffic unit finished the study on our end. That information was forwarded to engineering, who also has to review it and basically review the findings and also make recommendations. And it lies right now, I believe, in the engineering office.
Okay, because again, this is, since we started this, October, November, December, we are in 5th, 6th month. Can you give me the timeline, please? How long engineering will take? Because if you are talking about now another couple of months, because my understanding was...
I can tell you that the traffic unit finished the study since the last council meeting. They sent that information to engineering, and I know that's where it lies right now. So I would say it very soon. I actually thought it might be here tonight, in all honesty, but
okay. Again,
I would say soon, sir.
I'm the number guy. I would like to know the specific time frame. Okay. Again, soon means could be 4 years. We just heard, 7 years we are in, and we're still talking about culvert drainage project. So soon doesn't mean anything to me. I'm looking for the timeline. 2 weeks will be fair enough.
You'll have an update of some sort in 2 weeks.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Glendale property, I know my council colleague covered some of those, but my question were very specific. The funding details, and this is probably the third time I'm asking, how much money county paid, state paid, and what is coming out of the taxpayer's pocket? This is very important because we started with 9 million, we went all the way to 13 million. So, because this is going to impact the budget, so that's where my question came in. So if you can please help me to understand those numbers.
The Glendale property, so though that ordinance was a previous ordinance, I believe, from 2021.
Correct.
So that money was allocated. It doesn't affect this budget. We're not making any payments right now, so.
No, that may not impact the current budget, but did we receive the additional fund? Because from 9 million, it went to 13. That's a $4 million. Somewhere that money has to come.
No, it was 12 million, and the ordinance itself covered that entire amount.
See, ordinance, but again, the ordinance is talking about the capital allocation towards the project, right? That is not necessary. The whole money will be spent in the acquisition of the land. There are other costs around that. My question is, did we get, because back then I heard, I was on the council, that there will be $3 to $4 million will receive from the county. Did we receive any money? Again, I just need a black and white. If we
I'm not aware of any additional funding we've received from county or state grants.
Okay, so all this $13 million, we are saying this will be borne by the taxpayers from the...
Yeah, this is coming out of capital ordinance. I'm sorry, there was just...
At the end of the day, even if it is capital budget, it's taxpayers' money. Again, we are talking about the same thing. Thank you so I will take that out from this thing. Concept plan, my council colleague did ask, and you said this concept plan will come back to this council maybe in a couple of, maybe in April or something. Did I catch that correctly? Redevelopment plan of Glendale property.
Well, we're hoping to have that at the next council meeting, as I had said to Councilman Brusher.
Thank you. Cannabis, I will cover the last, but let me go to the next one is, and that's very important one, is council agenda and protocol. Again, my council colleague did cover that. The way I feel, look, this is my 9th year on the council. People are losing the respect of this dais. The way this council is behaving. the way we are conducting the meeting, the way we are interacting with the residents. And the reason I say that, we are here sitting on this dais because of the residents. If they are coming to the podium, we should be answering all their questions. If they don't know the protocol, we should be explaining those protocols, how these Monday meetings are conducted. So I would more or less, look at the attorney to step in, because my experience in the past was attorney, used to be more aggressive in controlling the meeting if council president was, either not willing or couldn't have done it. And very classic example, even today on a podium, very unfortunate. 4 minutes, 3 minutes, we are listening, and a gentleman cursing our finest officer in the police department. This is not acceptable. I would have expected attorney to step in and stop him right away. Probably, he could have probably backed out in reusing the words, choice of the words, but we are letting this fall through. Tomorrow somebody will come and start cursing every single council member. What we are going to do? So we need to maintain the sanity and the importance of this council chamber. It's very important for us. The other aspect of running the council meeting, I understand, the reality is we want to rush through the agenda, get it done quicker. That's what I'm hearing. But work session meeting is our meeting, this council's meeting. It can go midnight, doesn't matter. This is for us to discuss. Anyone can bring, any council member should be able to bring any issue and should be able to discuss. The reason I completely disagree with this agenda, and I'm coming back to you and our clerk, when the council member is sending you the agenda or in terms of the discussion item, they should be published as is. They are not. If I look at some of those line items, probably someone doesn't really need to look at the council meeting if those questions are clearly Glendale. I did ask about the funding detail, the concept plan. Had it been that question, I don't have to repeat that. So bullet items are fine. I know we are trying to save the space, but that's my request, that if you put probably all those questions that council member are asking, it will be helpful. My next biggest concern about this discussion item is the council, you expect the council member to provide this by end of Wednesday, and after that, you don't entertain. However, the council agenda is published on Friday, and sometimes we get some of the resolution right here on the day of the work session meeting. How fair it is to the residents as well as to the council member? It's not fair at all. If that's the case, we should allow this council to add some of the discussion items. Like, for example, my council colleague doesn't have any line item, but if he wants to speak, he should be allowed to speak. Again, I don't expect that any council colleague will take an hour or 2 hours on the unplanned, but we should at least provide that opportunity for the council person to speak on this dais. My next one is the North Edison Library. I'm chasing this down. Again, if you watch the 2021 council meeting, we rushed through to get the state matching funds on this dais. I voted in favor of that when our mayor was a councilman sitting right at this location, this position. He asked this council has to pass an emergency resolution to get the state matching fund. We did receive. Here go down 2.5 years now. We don't know. Where is our North Edison Library extension? I don't know, right? As a councilman, I'm trying to ask how much money we spend. I know this is not necessary, is the administration, but administration is very close to the library. You have the link to the library board. We are supposed to be working very close with the library and asking those questions to make sure that the expansion of the library happens. Unfortunately, I don't have it. I know, and I don't want to put my council on the spot, but next meeting, if you can please provide the financial details since 2022, since we received the matching grant, how much money we really spent in all aspects of especially for the North Edison expansion. I'm not looking in general, but that particular project is very important.
Okay, Councilman, we have a library board meeting tomorrow night. So
Thank you.
We'll do so. Thank
Perfect. My next one is a traffic signal. This is the New Brunswick and Talmadge through Council Person. Thank you, Sanya. You did send me the old traffic study report. Probably that was dated 20, 30 years ago. the situation has been changed. There are more warehouses, more traffic, more residential, again, it's in a residential neighborhood. It's very hard. It really chokes the entire Talmadge and New Brunswick. Again, my ask was, what it will take for us to correct. Again, these are the very small things the taxpayers or the residents are asking. I don't know why it's a rocket science. Why can't we have our traffic unit go there and probably look at and correct the situation? It's going on forever. So can I get some update by next council meeting, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Next one, the pothole. Our DPW is wonderful. I know, Ray, you run the department very well, always take care of things. But my questions are not very specific to street or specific to pothole, but in terms of the process itself. Once the citizen request is posted, how long we anticipate, again, knowing the weather situation, what is our SLA? 2 days, 5 days, 10 days?
So the severity of the pothole is the way in which we prioritize it. So depending on how severe the pothole, it would take immediate action. We usually go out immediately to take a look at it and see if, for overall purposes of road reconstruction, if it requires that. So again, that may not be an immediate thing, especially if there's a reconstruction portion to it. So if there's an imminent danger, DPW does go out and provide patching, and as you know, over on Talmadge, that's probably one of them, but those then, for future dates, are being dealt with differently. So it's prioritized in obviously the condition and the, for safety purposes. So, but they are usually dealt with on an immediate nature for safety reasons.
Okay, have we allocated any funds towards that? Because there are some streets, probably they may not get on the paving list, but they are in serious need of patchwork. But if you don't do that, probably, again, that's where my question is, there a strategy, is there a fund allocated especially for that? Not necessary, because not necessary that our DPW will be able to patch those sections, and we can't wait for our paving program, engineering study, that will go forever, right?
Understood.
Right.
Council President, if I could have Mr. Porio come up and explain.
Good evening. Most potholes are filled within 24 to 48 hours. The variable really becomes the time of year as well. This time of year, we're running cold patch. We can go out to a pothole 3 days, 4 days later, because it's cold patch, it may pop back up again. What I can tell you as recent as today, I went and reviewed over with my team the list of potholes of every pothole that we repaired, and putting together a plan for the rest of the year that goes back, and on those roads that aren't going to be repaved in this current year, to go back, excavate them out, recompact it, mill it, recompact it, and then put down the asphalt. So we have a running list. I think our guys are very receptive of addressing any potholes. You and I spoke very briefly how potholes are communicated any way you want. You guys have texted them to me. People posted on Facebook, Q alerts, phone calls. And that really goes for any problem that we have in town associated with my department. Get me the information and we'll deal with the problem.
Thank you. And as I said, Ray, when I started, you guys always do a wonderful job, always available for the help. It is just from the strategy standpoint of view, the long-term standpoint of view, because not every residents know the protocol, or I received several phone calls, right?
And to you and to the council, over the past 2 or 3 years, you have passed various pieces of equipment to allow us to address potholes in a more effective and efficient manner. This year, I think, and it's been proposed to the administration, hopefully we'll make it into the capital budget. We've also allocated some funds, or it's recommended on my behalf, to allocate some funds specifically for the type of sections that you're talking about, because it may be a 10 by 15, pothole, where we can go in there and mill it out and do a more extensive repair, rather than what was used to be done of just a throw and go. So those funds are being requested in this capital budget. We have gotten a lot of equipment thanks to you guys for us to be able to make those type of repairs. And we have an aggressive schedule plan for this year.
Thank you, Ray.
Yes,
If
sir.
you don't mind, if you can please take the right to Stephenville Parkway as well as the culvert towards the power grid. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council President.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilman Pointer?
Council President, question first. Do you have any additional items?
In fact, I kind of missed the cannabis. I said I will cover that in the last.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can go.
So on cannabis, residents spoke. Again, I heard, Bruce Diamond, he used to come to the council meeting. It's glad that he's coming back because that does give a lot insight. In fact, he lost the trust on this council because he said, you guys are not able to help, so he left. But it's good that he's coming back because of the cannabis. The town is changing. Let's accept the fact. The sections are changing. Let's accept the fact. School ratings is changing. Let's accept the fact. Demography is changing. Let's accept the fact. The will of the people has been changed. Let's accept the fact. So if you do that study today, I don't think the cannabis will pass ever. Again, I'm not against the medical cannabis. I'm not against even having the recreational cannabis, but never in residential area. And that is why that zone was picked up somewhere towards the Raritan Center. So my request to the council president, I know you sent email on Saturday, Sunday, this ordinance has been tabled, and that's why the residents came here, because their answer was absolutely no. So it was more about the communication or the response from this council, unofficial, official capacity, because there were 300 plus emails, 5,000 plus signatures. People were frustrated because they were getting conflicting information all across. And no resident or no taxpayer would like the conflicting information. If this body would have said, hey, we are going to think about it, we are going to form a neutral committee which will have people from for and against, that include the residents, the board of ed, situation would have changed. So we pretty much invited the last council meeting, what happened there. I know people can point the fingers, but that's not the case. People have spoken. So my request would be, let's be careful, what our next actions are going to be. Hopefully this body will decide those next action very soon, forming the subcommittee rather than dragging it to next year's election and then probably putting on people's head. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilman Pointer?
Thank you, Council President. Just a clarifying question. I would like to make two clarifications and a request on discussion items brought up by my colleagues. Would you prefer, is it possible to wait until the end, or would you prefer I just ask those now?
I would suggest you discuss your items first, and then I'll open it up to the council to see if they want to discuss any other council members.
I appreciate it. The first item I'd like to just bring up again is in regards to the Adopt an Area program that I'm hoping to institute. If any residents have any interest of either participating in an Adopt an Area program or have areas of interest where they think this type of program could be helpful, please reach out to me at jpoyner, P-O-Y-N-E-R, at edisonnj.gov, and I will gladly compile a list to put that together. Likewise, the Environmental Commission will be having a table at the Earth Day event in April, where residents can also provide feedback there. In regards to cleanups, there are two cleanups that I would just like to make residents aware of. The first is on Saturday, March 23rd. This is hosted by the Environmental Commission at Millbrook National Preserve. This is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And on Saturday, April 20th, the Clara Barton Neighborhood Preservation Committee will be having a cleanup on Amboy Avenue. Pardon me. On the planning board, I'm looking to bring up potential ordinance changes. Today, I have three that I would like to bring to attention. First, EV parking and calculations. While the ordinance is well-intended, the incentive inclusion of electrical charging stations, there have been many demonstrations where this can be utilized as a loophole to meet parking quantity requirements based on the current 2-for-1 formula. So if you are deficient in parking, if you have electrical charging stations, you get a 2-for-1 credit. This, while well-intended, may have unintended consequences because if you utilize that to meet your parking requirements, the question becomes, are you actually satisfying the parking need of whatever development goes there? I don't have the answer for this now, but it's something that I would like for the council to review and take into consideration going forward. Commercial building, solar. In 2021, Governor Murphy signed Assembly Bill A3352, which, as of July 2022, requires that any warehouse 100,000 square feet or larger has to have 40% of its roof coverage applicable for solar installation. I have two questions for our legal, if possible. First, can we implement this in our local ordinance? I understand it's already a state regulation and they have to do it, but just to make sure that we're abiding by it, I would like for it to be included in our ordinance. The second question that I have is, I understand that it's a state regulation. Does the municipality have the opportunity to have a stricter square footage allocation? And what I mean by that is, say right now the state regulation is 100,000 square feet. I may propose, hey, why don't we consider up to 50,000 square feet? Would that be something that we are able to do? And I suggest that because if you look at the development around town, a lot of the developments, particularly on the warehouses, are not going to be new warehouses. Edison is 95% built out. However, what they will be are additions to existing structures. So because they're not going to be primarily new structures, they would have less square footage that may be applicable, and that's why I bring this up. The third item is in regards to our municipal sign guidelines. This ties into the billboard ordinance because billboards are still technically a sign, but the types and quantity of signs that are around the township are immense, and they can have a detrimental impact on the quality of life for residents. So my hope is that by the end of the year that we can update our sign guidelines so that it creates a better environment for our residents. And finally, in regards to the master plan, the proposed revisions are going to be coming up at the planning board next Monday. All this doesn't matter unless action happens here on this dais based on the recommendations of the master plan. With that, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but a request would be for us to establish a implementation subcommittee, or however you want to call it, so that we make sure that we follow up on what the recommendations are and what actions we are taking. Because at the end of the day, as I just said, if we don't take any actions, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Thank you, Council President.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Pointer. As for me, I just wanted an update on the Talmadge property. Are we moving forward with that?
I believe that the Board of Ed and the administration are engaging in conversation, so that is moving forward.
Okay. Did we get a bike path at the Papiani Park with the 2 parking lots?
So those will be done in-house and they will be connected per your suggestion.
Okay. No, that's the path behind the Jets field.
Correct.
I'm talking about the bike path underneath the power lines. I know there was a deed.
You're talking about the JCP&L property, which is different than Papiani Park. That's
Yes.
why that's still being worked out through JCP&L. I'll just follow up with the attorney on where we are with the agreement.
Do you have an update or no?
Yes. So I have been working with JCP&L. We did some digging to try to find some old agreements, whether there was any kind of existing easement. It doesn't look like there is, or at least that there wasn't any kind of record of one for part of it. But that's being incorporated into an agreement with JCP&L for the use of the property for the bike path that's been proposed. I've gone over that at least once with administration. They have a couple of minor concerns, so I've just got to get back together with JCP&L at this point to figure out if those are significant concerns, as opposed to something that can be worked through. So,
any timeline that you think?
They got back to me last week, was it? We discussed this. So I was hoping to get back together with them this week or next week, depending on their schedules, so that we can try and work it out.
Thank you. And the last thing on the website, once we do pass this, how long does whoever the contractor has to build it out? And
So the timeline for the completion of the project, I believe, is June 15th, so it's a 3-month project.
okay. And just curiosity as to who decides the UI and who decides as to what the looks of it and how it will function. Would that be done through the administration? Would that be something that you guys will be looking to seek input from the community? In terms of the UI, as to what the layout is and exactly.
That's done internally through the township.
Okay, thank you. Now, as moving forward, I was going to announce this as the president's remarks, but I do want to allow other council members to speak to any discussion items that have been, because I think that was one of the concerns that we had, that someone wanted to speak to one of the topics that another council member brought up, and I think that's good for the discussions. So if anybody wants to speak to any other topics, they're more than free to.
Council President, I actually had neglected on my report from the animal shelter. There was one point that I forgot to add. I don't know if I can, it has to do with the scheduling of future meetings.
Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, so what I forgot to add, so we have decided that future meetings are going to occur quarterly. The next one is going to be on Tuesday, June 4th at noon. However, we will receive monthly reports on all of the points that I said above that have to do with how many adoptions there were in a given month, the current shelter population, what's going on with the foster program and volunteers, what's going on with the facility, how many parvo, feline, and euthanizations, and upcoming events. So I will get that report. I think the three of us on this subcommittee will get the report monthly, and so we will present that information monthly. But the next actual meeting is not until Tuesday, June 4th at noon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Vice President. Any council that wants to speak to? Councilman Drescher?
Yes, my only comment was, we were talking about the decorum in this room, and my colleague, I guess, was upset about the public. I believe that they don't understand what the public, why they were so upset. The public was upset at that cannabis meeting because they felt that this body as a whole, were listening to them. Right, this body was moving to table an ordinance that had the potential to come up a little sooner than if we just would have voted no, because I've heard from some of my other colleagues that said we were going to revise it. So if you're going to revise it, there is no need to table, not at all. You vote no, and then you revise it, and then you come back with the new revised portion. So if that was the intent, it should not have been tried to have been pushing to table it, because that made the residents uneasy, right? They wanted to see just a no vote. That's what we heard, okay? But we were continuing to try and table it. So as a resident, when I see my elected officials just trying to railroad something through, right, and doing whatever they feel they want, when I elected them and I believe that they're there to serve me, yeah, I'm pretty upset about that. So I don't blame the residents. I blame this body for trying to push that through. I think this body should have taken that into consideration when they seen the 300 and something people. And if everybody felt that it should just have been voted yes, you could have voted yes. But we also could have reached out to the residents about this, like I said, like I did the first time. So I commend the residents for coming out. I commend them for speaking up. If they did not, I believe we would have tabled it. And my personal opinion is that it might have come back in the same form. So I thank my colleagues for realizing it at the time. But I thank the residents for coming out and showing this body what was important. And I just wanted to say that because I believe the residents were right in what they did in seeing how this council was acting at that time. I agree with the residents. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Drescher. Anybody else?
Council President?
Councilman Pointer?
Thank you, Council President. In regards to the requested tree ordinance adjustment, I just have a request to the administration or to my colleagues that are looking to make the adjustment. If I can get stats as to what the past 2 years, the contributions to the tree fund have been and where they have come from, because if they are primarily through development versus residential, I'd be curious to that. I do have concern of unintended consequences that I think the attorney was trying to, or legal was trying to mention before. I would gladly express those concerns offline if that's okay with Councilman Brescher and Councilman Patil. Two clarifying items. In regards to the comment Councilman Brescher made on the warehouse, just a clarification that the lawsuits that are currently up are in regards to the ordinances themselves, not necessarily an application that was before their board. So the use of the public advocate in that aspect, if it were like the state public advocate that the state used to have in 2005 and whatever, that may be better suited in this regards, but a municipal land use public advocate, as has been provided, I don't think would have made the same effect. And Councilman Brescher had mentioned about mailers that were going out. This is just more of a FYI for residents. If you get a mailer that says delivery of cannabis to your house, take a look at the bottom, and on the bottom there'll usually be a small little fine print, and on it it'll say that this is part of the farm bill that was passed through the federal government. The farm bill, and I think this was 2017, 2018, allowed for industrial hemp to be commerced across state lines. So as part of that, any part of the farm bill is not allowed to have, or can have technically THC, but up to 0.3%. So it's much different than just a retailer trying to deliver to someone's house. They are using certain terminology to create, a market for themselves, but what was sent in that email the other day, that is technically a different item than the discussion that we've been having lately. I just wanted residents to know that. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Pointer. Anyone else? Okay. As for me, in the decorum aspect of things, I do agree the last meeting could have been handled better, but I think the new residents that came through did not know the process, and I believe we tried to explain it, but there was a lot of shouting, and there's a process. We introduce an ordinance. That does not necessarily mean that it's going to be passed. When we introduce it, it comes to the table here, we discuss it, and if it's not up to par after what the residents say, we do table it, including the ones that about the digital digital documentations for the boards. We tabled it the same night. And we are going to change it because, there were some concerns and that need to be addressed, and we will address them. And that's how this process works. It's not necessarily shoving anything down. The ordinance was introduced, then we had a discussion. Based on that discussion, we make our decision. And tabling is just this way to say, hey, you know what? The residents have concerns with this. Let's table this. Let's come back to it. If we don't need to come back to it, if there's a change of mind, we don't come back, and that is fine. And as for the cannabis, I don't think in the foreseeable future we are moving forward with it. So there's nothing really to announce, and I don't see it coming back anytime. Also, I believe it is my responsibility to explain to the public what is a good decorum. And as for what one of the residents was shouting today, I believe it is his right to say whatever he pleases, as long as he's within the decorum of the meeting is held. I understand he was quite upset, and those are not the words I would use to describe anybody, but it is the right of the public to say what they please, even though if I don't necessarily agree with it. And I think that's the right that I should uphold. That is the freedom of speech. That is what this country was founded on. In terms of addressing public's question, I believe it is the public's portion. That is why I want the public to speak. And a lot of times, a lot of the public have the similar questions. And I think we handle it pretty well today, where at the end, the council got to take time and answer any of the questions in the length that they chose to, rather than rushing to let the next resident come up and feel like, hey, if we answer this for 20 minutes, then the next residents would have to wait. So I don't think that's the right approach. I think letting the public speak, getting all the questions, and then answering it. I understand sometimes someone would have to leave, but they always have the opportunity to, go to the YouTube or Facebook and watch this if they really want the answers. As well, they have offline options where they can email us if there's something that they need to know. Moving forward, and this is not about rushing through this meeting. It's about creating efficiency. Just like today, some of the residents came through because they knew what was being discussed. If we didn't have what was being discussed, you wouldn't know what's on the topics to be discussed, and you would just be blind, and you wouldn't know whether or not you should attend. But there were some items that were important to some of the residents, and they decided, hey, I want to come because these are being discussed. I want to hear what the council has to say. So I think that's important to have these discussion items up front, and it helps the rest of the council understand, hey, you know what, one of the council colleagues is going to be bringing this up, maybe I can look into it. So I think this is the right approach for going through the council agendas. Let me see what else I had. I think that covers it for me. Saying that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Council President, if I make one comment.
Sure.
If someone comes to the podium and shouts or screams at this elected official, I don't think that's not, I wouldn't say that that's unreasonable. They have every right because they elected us. My only reservation is on the employees of this town. That optics looks very bad. And as this dais, in fact, our attorney should be stepping in, trying to calm down the resident. As I said, like if he shouts on me or any one of us, we are elected. It's their full right to ask our question and their full right to get upset. But I wouldn't let that go to any of the township employees to that extent. That's again, we can agree to disagree, but that's what my
I agree. I think that's a fair comment, and I will keep that in mind.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
May I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.